Hello, Ian here from Dark Blaze Workshop. Welcome back to another video. This one's the first part of the Snape Boggart by Night Models. Okay, here we go, the first part. This is all about the construction of the base, so yeah, let's get on with it. Okay, let's make a start on the Boggart. This is an amazing miniature. I'm so chuffed that they came out with this. I've wanted it ever since I saw the pictures when they announced it online. And on opening it, I was slightly disappointed. The insert that it stands on, the cabinet stands on a planked insert. And it comes with this base, and the insert doesn't fit on the base. So rather than trying to sculpt more planks, which I'm useless at, I thought I'll stick to my usual tiled, stone tiled bases, and then I'll make the glass cabinet fit on top of that by doing some pins in the base and gluing it onto the base, and then we'll carry on from there. Okay, so the plan is to put pins in the legs. So I'm going to just take a little slither off the bottom of the leg so I can get a pin vise going through on a straight surface or a flat surface rather than a curved surface, because otherwise it'll just slide off, which it is still doing. Right. Just make a start with a knife, just to get the hole in the centre-ish, and then we can start with a pin vise. I'm not going to go too deep into the stand or the leg. There we go, it's going now. It's just enough to get a little pin in there. I use paper clips, and I've cut a few pieces off already that I can use, so I'll just see how much of the pin goes in there, and you'll know if it's solid. You'll know you've gone deep enough, so I think we've gone enough in there. And I'll do the same for this leg here. So again, I've taken a slither off and I've made a hole with the point of the craft knife. And I'm just going in with the pin vise now. So be fairly careful. I'm not applying too much pressure, I'm just letting the pin vise do the work. Because if I go push in, I think it'll probably snap off the leg, and we don't want that. So I'll just check how much depth I got there. So I need a wee bit more. So I don't know if you saw that, I put my thumb on the surface of the Mini and then pull the pin vise out, and that'll show you how deep you've gone. So I think we're almost there. I don't want to go too deep because it'll end up coming out the top of the leg. So I'll leave it there. Yeah, happy. Right. So next up is to test fit the base. So I'm putting the pin back in there. So that's sitting in there, and another pin in the front of the cabinet there, just pushing down so it goes in. And I'll trim off quite a bit, so you only need about 5mm to go into the base. and I'm not going to glue it because this is just for a test fit. What I am going to do is to glue the back legs on. Right. Let's get my super duper glue. I'm not being particularly careful on this because it's at the rear of the miniature and you're not gonna really see it. Okay, so I'll just glue that into position. I'll just hold it there. Okay, so we've got the pins in place. Now, because of the shape of the legs, they've got a little dimple that actually sits into the insert so that the legs are actually sitting flush on the surface like that. What I want to do is to replicate that but on the plaster base. But I also want to pin them. Because if I just glue this to a plaster base, I'll knock it over and it just comes off the plaster and everything just turns to a white circle and it looks silly. So I'm going to pin them to the base. So I need to create the impression in the plaster, but then it makes it awkward then to drill through and get an accurate position on the pins. So I need to drill the holes for the pins first before adding on the plaster. Hope that makes sense. So what we're going to do is to get a rough guesstimate on where the cabinet is going to stand, and I'll place some blue tack down. And it's about there. And what I'll do, I'll position the cabinet where I want it on the base and push down so the pins go into the blue tack. And this will tell me where I need to drill the holes. So I've got my pin vise and I'll just drill through there. Hopefully this will all make sense when the plaster goes on. If not, I do apologise. And the second hole. Okay, so I can now remove the blue tack. I'll just make the holes a little wider. Okay, so we'll do a test fit. That's good. So that fit, I know it fits on the base now. Thing is now to remove the pin. So luckily that one stayed in place there. I just remove the pin from this one. And I can glue it into position on the base here now. Yeah, so we've got two pins there and none in the cabinet. So now I can apply the plaster to the base and get a nice smooth surface, and I'll still have two pins sticking out the top. And when it comes to just gluing the cabinet on in place, it should fit on there nicely. Fingers crossed. So the next stage is to add the plaster to the base. And I always use this stuff that I get from a local store. I either use this or polyfiller or plaster of Paris. Don't buy the stuff in the tubs because it shrinks and cracks. As I found to my surprise when I was doing another Hogwarts wall. I just ruined it completely. So I'm just going to apply that to the base now. Just fill in the cracks first. Remember to add your masking tape to stop it going all the way through. And we're just after a smooth surface now. All things being well, we should have the pins sticking out the top of the plaster. I just need to add a little bit more here. So I'm just going to concentrate getting a smooth surface on the front of the base. Doesn't have to be perfectly smooth. But as smooth as you can get it. There we are. That's a nice one. Oh no. Oh no, that's good, that's good, that's good. There we are. And I've still got my 2 pins showing through. Okay, so what we need to do now is to apply the cabinet to the base and onto the pins so that the legs sit into the plaster. And then we'll leave that to dry. Okay, so the plaster's set. I know that because it makes that scraping sound. So the next thing to do is to mark in the tiles of the floor. So I want these to match the ones I've been doing, so they're about that width. I'm not really bothered to get them perfect. As long as they look roughly the same, I'm happy. The tricky bit is to get the ones here matching. So I'll mark one there. And the other side. And I'll just carry on until I've done the whole base. And don't forget to just cleaning that off with the brush. Don't forget to stagger the tiles going this way as well. So if I start there, do every other one, and make sure they're in regular patterns as well. So keep going until you're finished, and then just clean up some of the plaster that's on the legs there. You can use a wet brush as well to shift it, and anything that's on the cabinet as well. And we're ready for priming. So I finished the pattern, but I made a little thin wash just to show you how the pattern is looking so far. I'm going to go out to the shed now to give it a varnish, so it'll cover all this anyway, but just to give you a rough idea at this stage. So we've got quite a few tiles on there to paint, but I think it'll look pretty good when it's done. So I'm off to prime. We'll come back for the next stage.